Greetings, everyone. This is Said Brass, and I said so. Why? Well, I saw this video or this interview over the weekend, this show called Democracy Now!, and they had Lili Bernard on the show. And for most of you guys that know who she is, you've probably seen her, not familiar with her name. But Lili Bernard is the one woman who is one of the many women who've come out against Bill Cosby. And she's the one that they're deeming a black woman with the fro that we see crying and doing all these other shenanigans at the trial. But I'm going to get on her in a second. But I wanted to really touch on this video and why it affected me. Was we're seeing, obviously, as on Friday, Harvey Weinstein surrendering himself to the police. And we know that he's facing charges of sexual assault on two women. But what we see is the media already drawing the parallels to Bill Cosby. And so when I watched this interview, it's really affecting me because what we're seeing is not only the parallel with Bill Cosby, but we see in the media with all these sexual assault cases, there's a parallel towards black men. And this is important, and this is why I'm shifting some of the focus on some of my videos to understand what is the visuality of what we see for black men in America. And notice the subtleties on how every atrocity that's being faced in America, they're starting to portray a black man in that actual picture. So notice how we slightly gonna put Harvey Weinstein, but we're gonna put Bill Cosby, a black man, in the same position as Harvey Weinstein. And I want you to pay attention to that. Before you render judgment, let's take a look at what I'm talking about.
I wanted to bring Lili Bernard into this conversation. Lili, you're an actor, you're a visual artist. You accuse Bill Cosby of drubbing.
Hold on real quick. So before we get into Lili Bernard, I want to discuss this woman right here, Amy Goodman. This is her show, Democracy Now! She's the executive producer and host on the show. And so what I'm really curious about this woman, she's actually a well-known feminist. There's a lot of mystery surrounded in her marriage herself. Her co-producer or co-executive producer on the show is her husband, Dennis, I believe, Moynihan. And a lot of people are curious to, are they even married? No documentation, no wedding certificate. No one knows the actual date of her and her husband's marriage. No one knows a lot about her kids. And she could be a very private person. But I find it very interesting when you see the body language between her and her husband. Photos of them online and just information on public information about the two in general. It's very mysterious to say the least on what's the actual true purpose of this woman, whether if she's a true feminist, is she true on family issues, if she even likes men at all. So without getting too deep into this woman's history, it's important to know who are these people that are leading this feminist movement charge in democracy or democratic platforms, and what do they actually and truly stand for? You can tell what a person really stands for by actually how they lead their life. So I think it's important to really understand who are these women that are leading the charge in a lot of these feminist movements that we support and we're seduced by, but not really understanding what it is that they're really shooting for, and actually how they see men in general, and more importantly, as we'll get into this video, how they view black men. But back to Lili Bernard.
Drugging and raping you in the 90s. Bill Cosby was just convicted of 3 counts of aggravated indecent assault in another case. Can you talk about your reaction to the news about Harvey Weinstein being arrested on charge of sexual assault and rape in the 1st and 3rd degree, and then your response to what happened to Bill Cosby in court, his conviction?
And see, before we get into this, and I know I keep cutting this off, but notice how we're going to draw the correlation between Harvey Weinstein here and Bill Cosby.
Sure. Well, if you'll indulge me in speaking through the lens of black womanhood, because black women's lives matter too.
Oh, geez, don't get me started. I've already got a headache, and the first words out this woman's mouth is talking about, let me speak through the lens of a black woman. Lili Bernard, this woman right here, has never claimed to be a black woman in her entire life. She was born in Cuba. She's always considered herself a Cuban woman. And now we have this situation And now she's talking about she's a black woman. Now, this is important for people to know. Everybody that looked black isn't necessarily black. But it's funny, she's coming on the show with her afro and her cowrie shells around her neck, and she's talking about let me speak through the lens of a black woman and black women lives matter. The movement here is Black Lives Matter. Let's not get into these conversations and these silos separating black women from black men. Now, we can speak to the atrocities and rape is a horrible thing that's happened to women, but when we're starting to try to channel this into a black women's movement, I think it's dangerous treading ground that we're walking on. And so, well, let's get back to Lili Bernard before she starts talking some more of this nonsense.
What this Harvey Weinstein indictment has done for me personally is that it's taken me right back to 1492 when rape was the linchpin of colonization and the slavery.
Notice she said 1492. I want y'all to peep that. 1492 was not slavery itself. I thought she was speaking through the lens of black women. 1492 was actually when Christopher Columbus came over and actually enslaved the local indigenous native, so-called Native American people.
That sustained the colonization. And Bell Hooks wrote that black women are programmed historically to be the sexual latrines of both powerful white men and disempowered black men.
Here we go. Here we go. See, notice these little subtleties. Black women are faced with the atrocities of powerful white men and disenfranchised black men. Notice how we're making this correlation to rape being somehow the culture of powerful black men. Let's rewind that. Notice what she just said right there. This is important.
Programmed historically to be the sexual latrines of both powerful white men and disempowered black men. And this is critically important.
This is definitely critical because you're basically saying that disenfranchised black men and powerful white men are somehow the number one enemies for black women. Notice that, black women. Now, true enough, I'm not here to litigate what issues, what happened with Bill Cosby and her. But when we try to make this an issue for black men, this is very, very dangerous grounds. Let's let Bill Cosby stand on the grounds of him and a man on his own. But when we start to try to propagate that somehow this is a condition that black men are facing, and that doesn't even prove her point because she's talking about disenfranchised black men, but Bill Cosby is not even a disenfranchised black man. So her point isn't even applicable to her herself.
Because from a cultural perspective, it's actually against the status quo for black women to speak out publicly against their rapist, particularly when the rapist is a beloved, iconic, black, powerful father figure such as Bill Cosby.
Notice again, she's going to keep pressing this point that Bill Cosby is a black man. Do we speak of Harvey Weinstein or any of these other men in Hollywood from the context of them being Caucasian men? No. And more importantly, Harvey Weinstein, do we speak of him as being a Jewish man? We do not do that. But somehow we have to bring in Bill Cosby and notate him as being a African American man so that we can put these issues on African American men. Notice how they do this very subtly in the media.
Now, more than a third of us Cosby accusers are black women. 26 of us are black women. And this has come with great burden because since the Cosby verdict, the vitriol that I and my sisters have been receiving from black adoring, diehard Cosby fans and rape apologists, I'm sorry to say the majority of whom are black men, has increased.
See, notice she says it again. The majority of the people that's beating her up or coming at her in a very aggressive way, quote, Lili Bernard, are black men. Again, notice the fact that she's going to highlight the fact that enemy number one for black women are black men. And so, brothers, I want you to realize this because I'm making my channel really more male-centric so we can see some of the issues and how we're being propagated in the actual media. Notice how Lili Bernard, you have full rights to come at Bill Cosby. Where I take issue with Lili Bernard is saying that this is somehow on the shoulders of black men. This is a problem.
increased tenfold, and this vitriol is fueled by Bill Cosby's impudence in paralleling himself to the lynched child Emmett Till, and into his audacity in likening us to modern-day lynch mobs, to likening us to really white supremacist thugs who target and murder innocent children, women, and men. And this is important. What Harvey Weinstein's indictment does for me personally is that it actually quiets these Black men who are attacking me. And
See, again, it quiets the Black men that are attacking her. Somehow, Harvey Weinstein turning himself in on Friday, and now we're finally getting ready to indict Harvey Weinstein. This somehow is quieting Black men that are attacking her, which is deemed as enemy number one. Notice what she is saying. This is very important. Again, I want to stress nothing against Lili Bernard. We don't know what happened with her and Bill Cosby allegedly. But what I take serious problem with Lili Bernard is somehow putting this on the shoulders of Black men and trying to paint this picture that Black men is somehow enemy number one. And this is what the job of these feminists are, these Black liberal feminists, is to separate the Black family structure, the importance of the Black man, and the true strength of what the Black man identity is. What very little of what we have today. And we see this through several cases. Now, again, I'm not here to litigate what these brothers did or didn't do, but what we're talking about is the nuances of how we identify Black men in culture today, and Lili Bernard is attacking that.
And it redirects the focus to what the real problem is, and the real problem is a rape problem. It's not a race problem.
Okay, so if the real problem is a rape problem, not a race problem, why are you still talking about it's Black men? So look at here, Lili Bernard, she's contradicting herself.
And Hollywood has perpetuated that rape problem by creating this version of femininity that is.
Look at Lili Bernard out here clowning. She coming out of the courtroom like this is all just for show, pomp and circumstance. Like, I'm not here to try to belittle what allegedly happened to her or did not happen to her, but come on, all of these shenanigans, Lili Bernard, you got to knock it off.
Like, you know, the damsel in distress, the sex pot, and women are subjected to that. And this disempowered form of feminism infects all corners of Hollywood. And what Hollywood actually is this, it's like an amplified mirror of these centuries of the disempowerment of women, of centuries of the objectification of women. And so what we as actors have to do in the industry is that we have to navigate these perilous parameters while powerful men like Cosby and Weinstein exploit this.
See, the conflating of Harvey Weinstein and Bill Cosby, if she was going to come from the woke Black woman perspective, at least correlate it from the perspective of slavery, of how white men have raped Black women from the very beginning, and that how Black men learned this and saw this from our oppressors or our colonizers originally through time, whether it was here in Americas, whether it was in Hispaniola when Columbus came on the scene, or whether it was in Haiti, whether it was in the Caribbean. Notice how this rape culture was propagated on us through our colonizers, but she couldn't do that. They wouldn't allow her to do that in the media. So instead, she's going to talk about Black men and show how Black men is not only the face for rape culture, but also enemy number one when it comes to the lesbian, feminist, democratic Black women.
And hide behind their pockets and are met with impunity because of the silencing culture of rape. And whereas it is empowering for victims to speak out and for actors to break that amplified mirror, you run the risk of being met with cuts. Being cut. And this re-victimization of the brave victim who will speak out can only be really changed and dealt with once we ratify the ERA.
Lili Bernard right here, she's speaking as a true feminist Black woman right now. Even though she never deemed herself as a Black woman, but she's running through all the talking points right now. The host here asked her to talk about her situation and what happened with her and Bill Cosby, and she's correlating it to Weinstein, but more so she's speaking to the issues that are plaguing feminism and talking from an intellectual level and less from a personal level, which is the whole reason why she's on the show.
And protect the rights of women under the Constitution.
Lili Bernard, can you talk about what happened to you, what you say Bill Cosby did to you in the 90s?
And this is why she asked her that question. What happened to you? Let's get down and dirty on what happened to you. We want to talk intellectually on what's going on with the state of rape culture and what is the state of Black women and feminism. You're talking about the ERA. Let's talk about what specifically happened to you. And notice how she starts smiling.
You were
Sure.
an actress?
Yes, I was.
Now, what person smiles right after someone asks them, tell me a little bit about what happened to you when you were drugged and raped? Now, I'm not a body language expert or anything of that nature, and I'm not trying to be. But I'm not saying, but I'm just saying. Come on. You smile, your natural instinct is to smile right after that question. Now, maybe it's a defensive nature to her to protect herself, or maybe she's lying. I'm going to leave it up to you.
I was an actress, and I was doing quite well when I met Bill Cosby, and he groomed me like he groomed a lot of women. He endeared himself to my family. He met my father, invited my father to the studio, spoke with my mother on the phone, invited the grandfather of my boyfriend at the time, who's been my husband, to the studios, my cousins to the studios. So he ingratiated himself to the family. He praised me to people to whom he introduced me, and I looked upon him as a father figure. And then once he gained my total trust, he drugged me and he raped me, and he did this during the mentoring process. And, you know, the word gaslighting was mentioned, and he did gaslight me prior to the drugging and the sexual assault when we were.
Again, she has to talk about gaslighting. These are buzzwords within the political construct that we're dealing with today. Most people don't even understand what these words is she's saying because she's talking so intellectually and from a perspective of what's going on in the world today. Gaslighting is a term when we're talking about Donald Trump. Donald Trump is actually gaslighting the American people today. And that's actually when you just deceive people through this actual gaslighting perspective, which is to divert from the truth. And actually, gaslighting comes from the term comes from the play, I believe in 1938. It was an actual Victorian play, and then it turned into an actual movie adaptation where this man was deceiving his wife, leading her to believe that she was going crazy when things were coming up missing or changing things in the house. And she was actually doubting herself and doubting the actual reality of what the truth is because her husband was actually turning the gas light down and actually changing things that was going on in the house to make her not feel comfortable about what she truly believed what was happening. Now, I'm interested to see how gaslighting actually applies to Bill Cosby and how that term applied to her in being drugged and raped. And she's looping that terminology in here, but it has nothing to do with her case based on what she's saying. But let's hear more about it.
He would put me through these exercises, and during one of these theater exercises, he came around behind me and he grabbed my breast. And I gasped, and I turned around really quickly, and in disdain, I said, "Mr. C, you grabbed my breast." He's like, "No, I didn't." I said, "Yes, you did. You grabbed my breast." He said, "No, I didn't." I said, "You grabbed my breast, Mr. C." And so when he saw that I was displeased, he said, "No, I didn't. I was trying to grab your rib cage. I was trying to show you to, lift up your rib cage and project through your diaphragm." And so this caused me to doubt myself. But so there's this very calculating, masterful manipulation of the mind that Bill Cosby, enacted in order to subdue dozens and dozens of women to the point of being able to drug and rape.
Now, I can actually see that happening. I'm trying to figure out where the rape came in and where the drugging came in. If she doubted herself, I'm not understanding how this was deemed gaslighting. At the most, I see this as sexual misconduct. But she asked her to speak to her case, and look how Lili Bernard talks about a case where, at the most, he's a perv.
You were in the courtroom when the conviction was announced. Again, that conviction was a conviction in the case of one woman, Andrea Constant, from Temple University, his alma mater. He was convicted of drugging and sexually assaulting her at his home in a Philadelphia suburb in 2004. How many other women were there with you?
Again, she's got this little smirk and smile on her face. Maybe she's just happy that Bill Cosby got convicted.
Survivors like you, and what did it mean?
Oh, wow. At the retrial, there were 6 Cosby survivors who took the witness stand. One was, as you said, the victim in the case, Andrea Constant, and there were 5 prior bad act witnesses, all survivors of Bill Cosby's drug-facilitated sexual crimes. And then in the audience with the public, there was myself, as well as Victoria Valentino, who's a Cosby survivor, Therese Sergnis, who's a Cosby survivor. And then, am I missing anybody else?
Okay, I didn't even want to say nothing right here. I just wanted to be petty for a second and pause it so you could just see her face. Okay, I'm gonna keep it moving.
Oh, yes, Linda Kirkpatrick also came. She's also another Cosby survivor. She was there in the beginning.
I just love how she speaks of these Cosby survivors in the context as if there's some kind of sisterhood in arms that pledge Delta Rape Theta or something. The worst thing that can happen to a woman is rape. And she's out here laughing and giggling and keying it up. Lili Bernard, I can see right through you. I could tell that she's out for money, fame, and fortune and to make a name for herself, as if she's like the line president of this sorority gang or something. If you're trying to come up, come up. I'm not a hater. I'm not knocking your hustle. You want to denigrate Bill Cosby, do that. But don't denigrate black men as a whole. Don't try to stand on the shoulders of black men. We got it bad out here as it is. That's just my problem with Lili Bernard.
And at the first trial, there were about 6 of us or so, including Jewel Allison and Barbara Bowman. So what that meant for us, I can tell you what it meant personally for me, is that it was the purpose.
All right, right here we got Andrea Constant. You know, I'm not going to even get into her because obviously by looking at her, you could tell she's been through a lot. We're going to let that be for a whole nother conversation, all of the details of this trial and what happened in this case. I want to stay on Lili Bernard, so we're going to keep it moving.
For which I attended the trial was to provide emotional support and to give a show of solidarity to the victims on the stand, that I'm here, that I believe you, that you're not alone, you know, that you're okay and that you're strong. So it was like this kind of a Zen cosmic display of energy and support.
They still got to keep this same cutaway of showing Lili Bernard walking out like she's so distraught and she's so overwhelmed with emotions. But notice how she's talking about them coming together, all the women coming together. First, we were talking about in the context as a black woman. And now this is the thing we have to really pay attention to, that the black feminist liberal woman, she wants to be deemed as equal to the white woman. And so she's going to be very happy to say that these women are her sisters in arms because the liberal feminist black woman, she wants to be the white woman, not with the black men.
For my sisters on the stand who were being just attacked by these Machiavellian lawyers of Bill Cosby's, you know, whose character it was a character assassination. It was really like a case study of rape culture 101. It was horrible the way they were slut shamed. And
how are you slut shamed? You're slut shamed what? You're Amber Rose now? You guys are deeming yourself as adequate, intelligent women. Now you're slut shamed. You're using every terminology and every textbook. Lili Bernard wants to use this as a spinoff so she can edify herself and write books and make herself the poster child for feminism and the poster child for black women out here. And so she's going to use all these coded languages so she can show that she can edify herself to speak well in these arenas, when she's supposed to be talking about her specific scenario on what happened with her and Bill Cosby, which she spoke very little about.
Victim blamed on that stand, and they withstood without shaking, and they were righteous and strong, and there was just so many just beautifully poignant historic moments, these displays of absolute strength and power that these victims displayed on the stand.
She's going to always be right there on the right-hand side of Julia Allred. Her case was thrown out, by the way, just so we know, Lili Bernard's case. But she's going to make sure she stays in front of these issues and speak to the fact of her being the leader of this group. You don't see the other woman speaking on this. You see Lili Bernard right here being in front of this at all times.
And so I was there to witness that, too.
I wanted to go back also to Harvey Weinstein.
Please go back to Harvey Weinstein. We are spending this whole piece and segment on talking about Bill Cosby.
This is from Vulture. Dozens of women have accused Weinstein of various forms of harassment and abuse over the past 2 months, with Weinstein only directly issuing statements of denial about Salma Hayek's and Lupita Nyong'o's claims in a new interview with Variety. Hayek believes it's because they're not white. She said, "We're the easiest to get discredited. It's well-known fact. So he went back attacking the 2 women of color in hopes that if he could discredit us..."
See, we're talking about women of color again. We're making these issues about color. It's bringing up Salma Hayek and Lupita. As far as what's happening to them, now we have discrimination within the discrimination of the whole situation that's going on with Harvey Weinstein. Now we're saying that the black women or minority or women of color, the terminology she used, are being marginalized within the group of women that overall are being marginalized. But now we're segmenting this out to actually women of color. This is very important to notice.
Now is the time for action. This is the second time Hayek has discussed her Weinstein experience. She also revealed early this year how she felt ashamed about waiting so long to tell her story because she said, "It felt like my pain was so small compared to all the other stories." I wanted to bring Louise Godbold back into the conversation. Your response to hearing what Salma Hayek and Lupita Nyong'o also described as their experiences with Harvey Weinstein.
Now, is this just horrible journalism or is it by design? Because why would Amy Goodman cut away to ask the question to this Godbolt lady right after setting up the situation, talking about Salma Hayek and Lupita feeling marginalized within this Me Too Weinstein movement as women of color? Wouldn't you want to talk to Lili Bernard about that versus cutting away to this Godbolt woman? That's not a woman of color. Why would you cut away and go to her in this conversation? This is confusion. But before we get into this Godbold woman, I don't want to go into her because this is the last time that we'll ever see Lili Bernard speak in this segment. But just a quick note that this is what's going to happen to Black women within the feminist movement. You will be marginalized even within that movement. This is nothing new. We've seen this play out before with the women's suffrage movement when women were fighting for the right to vote. Black women were on the front line, arms locked with white women, fighting for that right for women to vote. And what happened? White women received the right to vote, and Black women had to wait and get in where they fit in later on down the line, years later. And this is what you see every time where Black women lock arms with the white women, helping to elevate them to the position that they want to be in, and they're going to leave Black women behind. And in this same situation, Black women are being marginalized, and they will continue to be marginalized. And look what I tell you, it's going to same thing happen with women equal pay. They're going to leave Black women in the dust, but will elevate white women to be in some position to receive equal pay. Watch what I tell you.
His assaults on them.
Well, obviously, anyone who's been through that experience, my heart goes out to them. But to feel that you also now have to represent the token Latino or the token African American must be doubly damaging. As it is, you know, you're objectified. When you're sexually assaulted, you're objectified. And the abuser is not really connecting with who you are as a human being. So I don't know.
Yeah, you don't know. Probably the best words you could have ever said in this entire segment. You do not know. You were neither raped, as the victims were in this situation, and secondly, you're not a Latino woman or African American woman or a woman of color for that matter to speak on any one of these two issues. So yes, you are correct. You do not know.
Either of these beautiful ladies, but I imagine that it's just adding insult to injury. it's just mind-boggling. But going back to what I was saying before, that acknowledgement that something has happened is so important, because otherwise you are made to feel like you're crazy. And part of healing from trauma is being able to construct a coherent narrative. And if you're being told at every turn, that never happened, I never did that, you do begin to think that you're going crazy.
These women are not being duped to think that they're going crazy. You're giving a platform. The Me Too platform is giving you a mic to speak about what it is that is plaguing you and the situation that you have that's happening to you. I believe that should happen. I believe that's a conversation that should happen. But let's not pile on and conflate these situations to be more than what they are. Let's speak about the issues. Let's talk about them, articulate them in a poignant way. But let's not conflate these and start breaking these out into silos. Whereas we're saying, oh, where it's about Black men, we're also saying, hey, the Black people that this has happened to, they're being dealt with in a different way. Let's really deal with these conversations and figure out what is the actual solution.
And today, do you feel that way?
That I'm going crazy, a bit from jet lag, but other than that, no. I feel extremely validated that we now are at a point in history where this has moved on.
Of course you feel validated because you have a platform to speak about your issue. And again, you should have that platform. But do Black people have a viable platform to speak about the issues that's plaguing our community and plaguing us as a people? No. We try to do simple gestures like taking a knee with Colin Kaepernick, and we're deemed non-patriotic. But that's another subject for another day.
From stories in the press to an actual court case, and I really look forward to seeing something being settled by the means that our society settles things, through the courts.
Well, interestingly, in New York, a 2015 New York police sting operation recorded Weinstein admitting to groping Filipina-Italian model Ambra Battalana Gutierrez. But the district attorney, Cyrus Vance, who's presiding over what's happening today to Weinstein, refused to press charges at the time. One of the Weinstein lawyers donated $10,000 to Vance's election campaign only days after Vance decided not to prosecute this case. But I want to end with the closing ceremony of the Cannes Film Festival this past weekend, which was rocked by a powerful Me Too speech by the Italian actress and director Asia Argento, who is among the more than 100 women who've accused former Hollywood mogul Harvey Weinstein of sexual harassment, assault, or rape.
In 1997...
And as she closes, I'm going to stop right here because I don't want to get too far off the point. The purpose of me doing this video was to focus solely on Lili Bernard, not the Me Too movement. But I really wanted to show you how the Me Too movement was focusing on Black men being the image of everything that's wrong with their movement, as well as to project how Black women are going to be the face or the spokesperson and or the shield for this movement as well. I understand that a lot of women are going to see this video and take offense to what I'm saying, but this isn't for you. And if this doesn't apply to you, then don't get offended. This is more so to highlight the nuances and the subtleties that are plaguing our community, both on the fronts of African American women or so-called African American women, and more importantly, what the imagery is for Black men. And brothers, we got to wake up. Yes, we got to take accountability for ourselves, and yes, we got to change a lot of things that's going on in our community. But I'm more so highlighting these things because Black men only see the forces that come on us in an overt way. But we don't sometimes recognize a lot of the forces that are coming against us in a covert way. And this is going to be the focus of my videos and some of these videos that I bring out. I'm not going to even play the video of this Italian director and actress giving her account of Harvey Weinstein at the Cannes Film Festival. But yet, even in this, as she's giving her account, we see a Black woman, Ava DuVernay, being the imagery as she projects her story and what happened to her. Now, you can call it a coincidence or it just happened, but I don't believe it is by happenstance. This is all by design. So, brothers, we got to wake up and we got to come to our rightful place and we got to come into the truth. And so, with that being said, I wish you nothing but peace, blessings, and most of all, love. because I said so.